Hey guys, Edre here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the new Nav album, Good Intentions. A lot to talk about here. Interesting topic here. Nav in general hasn't necessarily had the best track record. Out of all these current wave of, more trap-oriented, I guess, rappers out there, for the past few years, Nav has consistently not been the greatest. He's consistently had some stale material here and there, not the best. So, going into this, not expecting too much. But I will start off my review by talking about some of the instrumental, some of the beat, some of the cover. That's usually what sticks out first to me, is the instrumentation, the music. That's one of the things that I always look for in a good album, or in a bad album. This follows through with a lot of his usual stuff. His usual style, his usual kind of more simplistic, more stripped back trap beats. It's very much what you expect. There's not too much of a flashy production here. It's very much more to the it's pretty much trap boiled down to its most basic form. I will say that throughout this thing, there is usually synth or like some sort of ambient sounds that come in throughout these beats, which I do quite enjoy. I'm always kind of a sucker for ambient synth pads, but to me, most of these instruments, a lot of them are drowned in reverb, and they're on top of beats which are pretty standard for what you get out there. So, right off the bat, instrumentally, this album doesn't stick out to me as being too, innovative or new or fresh. It's very standard and even more watered down compared to some of the other hip hop albums out there lately. It's very much by the books, I guess you could say. I will say, however, there is a pretty solid atmosphere here. Very spacey atmosphere, boosted by the synth and the auto-tune ad-libs throughout this thing. But for the most part, just the overall simplicity of some of this, it doesn't feel like an artistic choice as much as it is just like a lazy choice. I will say, however, Nav's performance. How is he on here? Is his performance really any better than it has been? Does his performance really make the instrumentals obsolete? Not really. His flow is fine. I do like his style, his flow. That's not the issue here. I actually enjoy his tone. However, I do think sometimes his monotone, or I shouldn't say monotone, his monotonous style, or like the consistency of his flow between each and every song does get a bit annoying as the album progresses, because it becomes more and more clear that, is he ever going to change this up? I don't think so. But yeah, the lack of variation from track to track really waters this project down, unfortunately. I will go take some time to look at some of these features, though. The ones that stick out to me for good and bad, I'm going to start off with Lil Uzi Vert. If you've watched any of my reviews lately, I've talked about Lil Uzi Vert quite heavily because he's been constantly releasing music. Just like his normal music he's been putting out, his feature on this album is very unmemorable. Just like Nav's part. He doesn't add anything to it. He doesn't take anything away. If anything, Lil Uzi Vert has gotten more and more bland as the projects keep on coming. However, on the flip side, I do think that Young Thug and Future are two of the better features on here. I think Young Thug's singing or rapping is lower than he usually does, and it does come off a little low effort. But I will say it fits with the track, and I quite enjoy that. And with Future, I think his feature fits the song quite well. It fits the instrumental. It fits Nav's vocal style very well. And it's one of the better features. Solid flow. Compliments Nav, and he has Future always uses his high end of his voice quite well. And Gunna, Travis Scott, one that kind of sticks out to me. Gunna came out a little bit forgettable, but Travis's subpar feature at least had something to give. The few songs that actually stuck out to me for good and for bad was My Business. I really do quite like the atmosphere that the instrumental provides, and I think Future's feature really adds a lot to that. On the flip side, I think Turks is one of the most repetitive, with a very disappointing feature, and not one of my favorites here. Then you have a lot of these filler songs, like Brown Boy. You know, how many times can you talk about that? Overall, how do I feel about this? It's pretty much what I expected. I wasn't expecting much more from Nav. I will say it's not as bad as I was expecting, but it is what it is. He's very much like the AI generated trap music of this era. I've settled on giving this a light 4. It's not horrible. I don't despise it, but I wouldn't go back and really listen to this thing. It's very standard of what we get nowadays, but like even more watered down. That's it for now. Nav, good intentions. I mean, I'm sure he had some good intentions while making this. It just sounds like a bunch of bad habits.